With the crisis in Ukraine and Gaza still looming, this year's Munich Security Conference was no easy affair. The state of affairs can be judged by the fact that the report produced at the annual gathering has been titled Lose-Lose. I'm outside the Bischhof Hotel where the Munich Security Conference is underway. Well, this year marks the 60th anniversary of this event, which brings together international leaders to talk about the most pressing security issues. But will the geopolitical division undermine meaningful progress at these talks? I'm going to find out.
Platform to search for peace through dialogue.
At the conference, the tension was palpable. Europe is facing a difficult time, with Trump as the U.S. presidential runner, who, by the way, opposes NATO, and the Ukraine conflict at its doorstep, dragging into the third year with no ending at its sight.
We have also imposed economic costs on Russia for its aggression. I applaud the recent $54 billion commitment the EU made to support Ukraine. President Joe Biden and I stand with Ukraine.
This stance, which is largely only comprehensible in the US and the EU, does not represent the priorities of countries in the global south, given the pressing challenges they face relating to climate change and migration, as well as the food and energy crisis. Beijing sent a different signal. Foreign Minister Wang Yi reaffirmed China as a force of stability.
俄罗斯是中国的最大邻国，中俄关系在不结盟、不对抗、不针对第三方的基础上稳定发展，符合双方的共同利益，也有利于亚太和全球的战略稳定。
A year ago, 32 out of the 180 states abstained during voting on the resolution urging the withdrawal of Russian troops from Ukraine at the United Nations General Assembly. Among these were countries from the Global South. The refusal of many countries in the Global South to support Western sanctions was a significant factor in the failure of the West's attempts to isolate Russia. China's presence at the annual event as the world's largest developing country dates back to 2010, giving the Munich Security Conference an international character so that it does not appear to be just a meeting for European leaders and military personnel dominated by Western nations. Amid soaring support for Israel from the West, discussions on the future of Israel and Palestine became another tipping point at Munich. Sitting among the Western participants, I asked if they see a possible role for China in a potential long-term peace process between Israel and Palestine.
And what could China bring to such a process that maybe the Western countries have not been able to or could not?
Well, no one picked up the question, leaving a former Israeli official defending Israel's image in the world.
This is the only hope for Israelis and Palestinians alike, to find on both sides the leadership that understands that the best option for their own people is to find the way forward and to acknowledge the legitimate rights of the other side.
Just one day before this panel discussion, the Chinese foreign minister reiterated China's stance.
中方呼吁加快实现巴勒斯坦独立建国，召开更大规模、更有时效的国际和会，真正实现巴勒斯坦和以色列两个国家的和平共处。
The conference report states that 27% of the 250 speakers appearing across 60 events this year come from the Global South, the highest proportion to date. For the Angolan delegation, opportunities matter more than mere participation.
The number of attendees is not the most important. What matters most is how effective and powerful those who can actually make an impact at this conference are.
And while representation indeed matters, some say there just weren't enough attendees from the Global South in Munich.
I didn't see any participants from South Korea, honestly. The conference is more Eurocentric.
While the discussions and outcomes of the conference suggest that Western powers have come to recognize the significance of nations in the Global South, the realization appears to be driven by the need to garner support in major conflicts against Russia and China. Meanwhile, outside the hotel venue, there are demonstrations against NATO and some in support of Palestine. This raises questions. How much are the voices of the Global South truly valued here? And how effective can this conference be without more inclusion? Is it potentially isolating the voices that need to be heard?